Hello again, my dearest listeners. Ready for another journey? Tonight I am going to read you one of my favourite bedtime stories. Our story tonight is called The Noisy Quiet Game. Once upon a time, in a busy little town called Rumbleton, there lived a group of friends who loved nothing more than making noise. They were known as the Loud Bunch, and their names were Tappy Tom, Whistling Wendy, Stomping Sally, and Giggling Gary. Tappy Tom couldn't keep his hands still. He drummed on tables, tapped on walls, and clicked his tongue all day long. Once, during a school test, his constant tapping on the desk distracted the whole class, and his teacher had to move him to the hallway to finish his exam. Whistling Wendy had a tune for every occasion. She whistled while she walked, while she ate, and even in her sleep. Last month, she got in trouble at the local library when her cheerful whistling disturbed other readers, and the librarian asked her to leave. Stomping Sally loved the sound of her feet. She stomped upstairs, down halls, and across floors with great big steps. Just last week, her stomping shook the decorations off the walls during her little brother's nap time, earning her a time out from her parents. And Giggling Gary? Well, he found everything funny and laughed at the drop of a hat. His uncontrollable giggles during his cousin's piano recital got him into quite an uncomfortable situation when the audience couldn't hear the music over his laughter. Together, these four friends filled Rumbleton with a constant buzz of sounds. The grown-ups in town often covered their ears and said, "Oh my, what a racket!" One sunny afternoon, as the Loud Bunch was making their usual commotion in the town park, they met a new kid named Quiet Quinn. Quinn wore big, fluffy earmuffs and spoke in a soft voice. The Loud Bunch was intrigued by this strange, quiet newcomer. "Hi there," Quinn said gently. "What's all this noise about?" Tappy Tom stopped his drumming for a moment, his fingers still twitching with pent-up energy. "Noise? This isn't noise. This is fun." Whistling Wendy paused her tune, a half-finished melody hanging in the air. "Yeah, we're just being ourselves." Stomping Sally did a little dance, her feet leaving small dents in the grass. "Don't you like to make sounds?" Giggling Gary let out a big laugh that echoed across the park. "It's the best thing ever." Quinn smiled and shook his head. "I like quiet games better. They help me hear the world around me." The Loud Bunch looked at each other, confused. They had never thought about being quiet as fun. In fact, they usually got into trouble when they were told to be quiet. "Tell you what," said Quinn. "Let's play a game. It's called the Noisy Quiet Game." "A noisy quiet game?" they all asked at once, their voices creating a jumbled chorus. "How does that work?" Quinn grinned. "It's simple. We all try to be as quiet as we can, but in the funniest way possible. The last person to make a noise wins." The Loud Bunch wasn't sure about this game, but they decided to give it a try. They all sat down in a circle on the grass, each finding their own comfortable spot. "Ready?" Quinn whispered. "Go." At first it was easy. Tappy Tom sat on his hands to keep from drumming, remembering the time he'd accidentally started a rhythm circle in math class. Whistling. Wendy puffed out her cheeks, holding in her tunes and thinking about the bird songs she'd interrupt on her walks to school. Stomping Sally crossed her legs tightly, recalling how her stomping had once caused her mum to spill coffee all over her work papers. Giggling Gary bit his lip to stop from laughing, thinking back to the time his giggles had ruined his dad's surprise party. But as the minutes ticked by, it got harder and harder to stay quiet. Tappy Tom's fingers started to twitch. He wanted so badly to tap on something, anything. He looked around frantically, trying to find a way to keep his hands busy without making noise. Finally, he had an idea. He started making funny faces, wiggling his eyebrows up and down, puffing out his cheeks and crossing his eyes. Whistling. Wendy watched Tom's silly expressions and felt a giggle rising in her throat. She clamped her mouth shut, but her cheeks turned red from the effort of holding in her laughter. To distract herself, she started to mime conducting an orchestra, waving her arms around in big, sweeping motions. Stomping Sally's feet were itching to move. She started to bounce her leg up and down, but quickly stopped when she realized it made a small thumping sound. Instead, she decided to see how long she could balance on one foot. She wobbled and swayed, arms out like a tightrope walker trying to stay upright without making a peep. Giggling Gary was having the hardest time of all. Everything his friends were doing looked so funny to him. Tom's faces, Wendy's conducting, and Sally's balancing act were almost too much to bear. He stuffed his fist in his mouth to keep from laughing out loud, remembering how his laughter had once started a chain reaction of giggles during a school assembly. Quinn sat calmly in the middle, watching the loud bunch with an amused smile. The big earmuffs made Quinn look like a fluffy-eared bunny, and for a moment Gary almost lost it again. As they all struggled to stay quiet, something amazing started to happen. Without all their usual noises, the loud bunch began to notice other sounds around them. They heard birds chirping in the trees, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the distant laughter of other kids playing in the park. Tappy Tom realized that the world had its own rhythm, a soft and steady beat he had never noticed before. His silly faces slowly faded as he listened to the gentle tap, tap, tap of a woodpecker in a nearby tree. He thought about how this natural rhythm was so different from the chaotic beats he usually created. Whistling. Wendy heard the wind whistling through the branches, making a melody more beautiful than any she had ever made. Her arms gradually lowered as she became lost in nature's song. She wondered if she could learn to whistle as softly and sweetly as the breeze. Stomping Sally felt the earth beneath her feet in a new way. She could sense tiny vibrations from ants marching in the grass and squirrels scampering up tree trunks. Her wobbling stopped as she stood still, connecting with the ground in a way she never had before. She realized that sometimes the softest movements could be the most powerful. And giggling Gary? He discovered that sometimes the funniest things don't make you laugh out loud. The sight of a squirrel trying to crack open a tough nut made him smile, and watching a butterfly land on Quinn's earmuffs filled him with quiet joy. He realized that humor didn't always have to be loud to be enjoyable. Minutes passed, and still, no one had made a sound. The loud bunch was so caught up in the new world of quiet, they had discovered that they forgot all about the game. Each of them was lost in their own thoughts, reflecting on how different this experience was from their usual noisy adventures. Suddenly, a loud, rumbling noise broke the silence. Everyone jumped and looked around, wondering who had lost the game. But it wasn't any of them. The sound came again, and this time, they realized it was coming from Quinn's tummy. Quinn's face turned red as his stomach growled again. "Oops," he said with a sheepish grin. "I guess I'm a little hungry." The loud bunch burst into laughter, but it wasn't their usual noisy giggling. It was a softer, warmer kind of laughter that felt like a gentle hug. They realized that even in quiet moments, funny things could happen. "I guess you win the noisy quiet game," said Tappy Tom, smiling at his new friend. "Yeah, you're the quietest of us all," added Whistling Wendy. "Except for your tummy," Stomping Sally giggled. "That was the best game ever," exclaimed Giggling Gary, his eyes twinkling with mirth. Quinn beamed at his new friends. "You all did great. How did it feel to be quiet for a while?" The loud bunch thought about it for a moment, each reflecting on their unique experience. "It was strange at first," said Tappy Tom. "But then I started to hear so many cool sounds I never noticed before. The world has its own beat, and it's pretty amazing." Whistling Wendy nodded. "The wind makes the prettiest music. I want to learn how to whistle like that. Maybe I can practice softly so I don't disturb anyone." "I felt like I could feel the whole world through my feet," Stomping Sally said, wiggling her toes in the grass. "It's like a secret language of tiny movements." "And I realized that sometimes the funniest things are the quiet ones," Giggling Gary added with a soft chuckle. "I don't always have to laugh out loud to enjoy something funny." Quinn clapped his hands softly. "That's wonderful. Being quiet doesn't mean you can't have fun. It just means you can hear and feel things in a different way." From that day on, the loud bunch wasn't quite so loud anymore. They still loved to make noise and have fun, but they also learned to enjoy quiet moments. They would often gather in the park to play the noisy quiet game, competing to see who could be the silliest without making a sound. And as they played, they discovered more and more wonderful things about the world around them. They learned to listen to the songs of birds, feel the rhythm of the earth, and find joy in the smallest, quietest moments. The grown-ups in Rumbleton noticed the change. They would smile and say, My, what a delightful bunch of children." And the loud bunch, who were now sometimes called the not-so-loud bunch, would just grin and put their fingers to their lips, inviting everyone to join in the wonderful world of quiet. As time went on, each member of the loud bunch found new ways to express themselves while being mindful of others. Tappy Tom discovered he had a talent for sign language and started teaching his friends. Whistling Wendy joined the school choir, where she learned to control her voice and harmonize with others. Stomping Sally took up ballet, channeling her love of movement into graceful, quiet steps. And Giggling Gary? He started writing funny stories, finding joy in making others laugh through his words. They never forgot the lesson Quinn had taught them, that there was a whole world of fun and adventure waiting in the quiet moments. And sometimes the most beautiful sounds are the ones you have to listen closely to hear.